Hello everyone, we are continuing on with our NHL season preview series, and we have a good one today, the St. Louis Blues. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you are new. I'm hoping to do this as a full-time career, talking about hockey, as well as my other channel, Bush League Broadcast. You can check that out. But yeah, subscribe if you are interested, and if you're on the fence, let's talk about the Blues and then see where you're at. So, St. Louis was able to put together a very good regular season with a record of 49, 22, and 11 for 109 points and a third place finish in a very tough Central Division. On top of that, they upset, if you want to say upset, the Minnesota Wild in the first round, winning in 6 games before having the eventual Stanley Cup champions, the Colorado Avalanche, beat them in as many games. But after last season, there is hope in many Blues fans' hearts, and they are feeling a potential push after a great regular season last year. Having said that, what are some storylines to watch out for this season, and what are my expectations for the team, or what I think they should expect for themselves? Well, the first question will be, is this the final push for a while? And what do I mean by that? What I mean is this is a final push with some of the guys they have. The Blues are by no means the favorite to win the Cup this season, but they are a dark horse. And some people within and outside of the fan base think that they could take a chance and possibly make another run here and hoist the Cup after doing so previously a few seasons ago. But if they do it this year, the next season after that could look a little different. Beloved veterans Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko are both unrestricted free agents after this season and could be huge losses for their top 2 lines should they leave. Now, Vlad is a guy that maybe isn't as loved as before because, he kind of has said he wanted to be out of the team, out of the franchise last season, but he's still here and led the team in scoring last season while playing 75 regular season games after battling shoulder injuries really the past 2 seasons. He's certainly not a big-time two-way player that provides value in that sense. He's not going to lock down oppositional lines, but he is a player who scored 182 goals in a 5-season stretch, which is great for him in that period. Also great to see him revitalize his career last season, but where is his head at exactly? We know things are very difficult for him when he was dealing with his recovery from surgery, and he no longer felt like he was wanted in the organization, or at least that's what rumors were, and he is going to have to put that aside for what could be his last season with the only team he's ever known. And I'm very curious to see if this could go well. Last year I thought it went really well when I thought it could be really rocky, and I think we're just going to have to see how it plays out with him and the team's success before the deadline. While I certainly don't think Wyatt would give anything than 100% before a possible trade, or if they started poorly, we could see rumors kind of swirl around him, and the return that you could get for him would be nice. Maybe not as good as a few years ago considering the injuries and kind of taking a gamble on him, but he could get a pretty decent return. But let's say he's around for another playoff run. What exactly are you getting in Tarasenko? Well, you're getting a guy that could potentially score 35 plus goals and put him on a line with one of the more underrated wingers in the league, Pavel Buchnevich, who he played very well with, and the 24-year-old top line center Robert Thomas. Thomas is part of this line that intrigues me, as Tarasenko could be a potential great setup man for the younger player and help him grow more after a career-high 20-goal season. I believe it was a career-high season for him in terms of goals. He's still relatively young, that being Vladdy, as he is, 29, 30, but he is possibly going into unrestricted free agency with a good year again underneath his belt, which could be great for him to argue that he's back in his prime and deserves a decent deal, which means a motivation for him to help the team for a big season could be huge for the Russian. Whether he stays or leaves, he can get the bag and go from there. As we said, though, his loss would be felt. Now let's talk about O'Reilly. As for O'Reilly, he's been a key part of this team since his arrival from Buffalo. Was a guy that felt like he lost a lot of passion for hockey, which is so sad. You see guys that play at a top level and are on bad teams for a long time say that at the end of the day they felt like they were stuck because they would play good hockey or play whatever sport or even in life, do the right thing and then or just do well in life, but be stuck in a bad situation. And obviously he arrived in St. Louis, which is a much better situation. He is a two-way center who is good off the draw and has been a leader for the team. I'm not exactly sure of what his future holds as well, or if he wants to stay possibly within the Lou, but I do think the Blues would be losing a very experienced guy who would be able to limit slot shots very well, as we saw with him last season at even strength, if he's able to replicate that. I know he may not be that big goal scorer that you see some other top line centers of the league, or at least, you know, guy that plays in your top 6 for a center, but he's still a good player and able to play a top 6 role, and a very good player at that, in my opinion. I'm interested to see how this season goes for him, since he won't be playing with David Perron, who left in free agency to Detroit, and they have played a lot of minutes together. But I do think there is a time where O'Reilly could be all right here, as he'll be playing with Jordan Cairo, who he's expected to play with on the second line this season, after playing about 275 minutes together last season. Also, a few years ago, this would have been way more concerning, because him and Cairo played like 13 minutes together. But yes, here we are now, where it's been 2 seasons of them at least playing 200 minutes together or more. And yes, the Perron thing hurts, but it is hockey. And this, in that time, Cairo and him played pretty well together, if I remember, which could bode well for the second line alongside Brandon Saad. Still, possibly losing their second line center after this season, with everything he's been able to accomplish with this club, could be a big issue. And that is why I think we have to watch out for these two, as him and Vlad could be the talk of this team this season. Without them, you're really in a spot where you're wondering what the direction of this team is. With them, you're in a better spot to maybe make a run and be that dark horse team. And we'll see, and we'll have to watch out for them come playoff time, if they're still there. Now, as for another storyline I wanted to focus on, was whether or not their ability to bury the puck over their expected goal total would stick. It's not a surprise at this point that we heard about this a ton last season, me being one of those people. They had an expected goals for per 60 of 2.91 last season, good enough for 15th in the league, versus an actual goals for per 60 of 3.73, which was 3rd best in the league. The Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs, whose expected goals for per 60 were in the top 3 respectively, were also in that goals for per 60 that was turning into a real thing. So they were expected to get the goals that they got, whereas St. Louis wasn't. Toronto, Florida were in that top 3 and expected, and St. Louis obviously not about league average. And that is a little bit of a problem. The Blues were a above average shooting team in a lot of different situations, with their expected goals for per 60 on the power play being 17th in the league compared to their actual goals for per 60 being 2nd. And for their even strength expected goals for per 60, it was 17th compared to 5th for actual goals for per 60, and the same held true for 5-on-5 play. And here is a heat map by Hockey Viz. I'll leave their link in my bio, or not my bio, but the video caption thing for you to check them out. And as you can see, just really good right here. Red is good. There is a lot of red, and that could explain how 9 St. Louis Blues players were able to score 20 or more goals this season. I mean, the lowest shooting percentage out of those guys was Ryan O'Reilly, out of those 20 or those 9 20 goal scorers or more. And O'Reilly had a shooting percentage of 12.5%, which is still above league average. Well, I do think this team does have some proven goal scorers, and they have some guys that have potential. I'm anxiously awaiting for potential fall. And it's not because I hate the Blues. You know, I came from a hockey background where my friend's family were really diehard Chicago fans, and his dad paid extra to make sure that if there was ever a big storm, we'd still get the games, and we'd go over there, or I'd go over there Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, and during the weekday throughout, and we'd watch a lot of games, and we would watch a lot of Chicago and St. Louis games in their prime. And I did love when St. Louis is good, and I'm glad they are still good and miss the heat of that rivalry. But I do think I am somebody that is a realist, and you being able to outperform expectations like that for long stretches is very unlikely. Maybe a season, I mean, that's tough. It can happen, especially if you have above average league players or really good players. But to do so for so long when your expected goals for total is lower is something that I'm going to watch out for, and I don't think that they'd be able to do it for 2 full seasons. If it does happen again, we'll probably do a deep dive on it, maybe what they're doing offensively or how they're able to get the puck in their end and to score for them. But I do think this could be very, very big for them, as they did lose their power play leading goal scorer from last season, Prawn, with him, and they were able to finish with the second best power play percentage with Prawn there. And I'd love to see how they do without their winger and his shooting spike there. So for now, we'll see if the Blues can score goals like last season, and hopefully they can, because they were a really fun team. As for the final topic, I'm going to get a little bit controversial and talk about Jordan Cairo and what his future could mean for his team. Like I said earlier in this video, Cairo will likely take on a bigger role with the franchise after really being very good last year in just 16.5 minutes a night on average. He was also able to average over a point per game in that time, and didn't have big stretches in the year where he failed to either get a goal or an assist. Now, sometimes they might not be as good as the others. They might be on an empty net. But his longest streak, when I went back through his game logs, as far as I didn't miss anything, was 3 games without a goal or an assist, which is really good to not have a streaky player, a guy that's just able to go in there and help most nights. And he was a very good player for them. Unlike Robert Thomas, he was not a guy that benefited a lot from empty net points. Thomas had 7 points, and that was with no one in net, so that was kind of a thing. Whereas Cairo might not have had any. I'd have to go back and check, but all good things to look at for a career year. And it could put his team in between a rock and a hard place with their current cap situation. Sure, O'Reilly and Tarasenko could come off the books after this season, and they'd have plenty of money to re-sign him. But like I've already said, you'd preferably not like to lose them. So, who's going to take the pay cut then, right? That is the question. And in my opinion, I don't know if anybody would take a pay cut here. And I know for a fact it certainly wouldn't be the 24-year-old that would do it if it did happen, because he would be coming off possibly back-to-back career seasons. And I see a world where they would like to keep O'Reilly if him and Cairo are able to play well together, meaning Vlad would be the odd man out for money issues and his issue with wanting a trade. Now, Cairo could get moved around online, so maybe that would change things up, but I do think Vladdy would be the odd man out. So just like that, they could figure things out maybe through a trade or in free agency this year. I'm not sure how that's all going to go down, but this is hockey after all, and this is where your team is. The cap is the cap. You have to find ways to deal with it, and if somebody's not taking a pay cut here, this is just not going to be able to work out. And it's got me fairly skeptical about what's going to happen, because if you lose 2 of these 3, which you won't lose Cairo, that's just not happening, but if you lose the other 2, I do feel like that is a big time loss for them. But like I said, Cairo is going to be good. I really do expect that for him. He is going to get a lot more minutes on the power play, or more time on average, and he's going to get more playing time. If he was stuck at 16.5 minutes again this year, I would be shocked, especially from what we saw from him. I really love what he's been able to do, and I know that he is going to be a part of their future if things continue to quick. So, having said all this, what are my expectations for St. Louis this season? Well, I certainly don't have them having another 109-point season. Call me a skeptic, that's alright, but this team has certainly had a year where they are over-exceeding expectations, and I am betting on regression as a whole for the team. They could definitely be in the thick of a playoff hunt and make it to the postseason, but they need guys like Barbashev to have their breakout seasons like they did last year. Barb, he had something like 26 goals last season, where his previous high was 14. They're going to need that again. And at this point, you are looking for multiple players to do that as well. I would say just enjoy the show. This could be the last, really good season St. Louis has. If they lose guys like O'Reilly and Tarasenko, maybe they don't fall off a cliff, but they're not able to put up 100-plus point seasons. But enjoy it while you can. Maybe they get on a run. So what are your expectations for the St. Louis Blues this season? Let me know down below in the comments. Please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. And also check out my playlist at the end of this video. Everybody, please stay safe. Have a great night. And you go with hockey, alright. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.